Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. Right now, there's a non-denominational retreat at the Resolution Center of Jacksonville, Florida. It will be a time of support and renewal for parents and grandparents on the journey of parental alienation. It's called Standing Strong in Resilience, Paving the Way for Good Health and a Great Future. This takes place April 22nd through the 24th of 2022, and I will have all the information in the podcast notes. Right now, I have a return guest. I'm proud to have attorney Barbara Stone back on the show. She was last on my podcast September 8th, 2021, Season 2, Episode 100. Attorney Barbara Stone is a former real estate attorney in practice in New York and Florida in prominent national firms and a former real estate broker. Now, she has just returned from Tallahassee to see firsthand how the crimes are concealed by illegal laws within our government. And this kind of goes around the guardianships. And I welcome you, Attorney Stone. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me on your show again, Maryann, and thank you so much for all you do in terms of bringing these laws to the attention of the public, because it's become so monumental, the ways that the government strips people of their what's called inalienable rights, and the general public still doesn't understand. And so it's so important that it keeps getting repeated and people begin to understand it by hearing it over and over.
Definitely, because people don't understand guardianships. I think when we talked last, I really didn't know of anything about this until last year, early spring or so. This is, then you suddenly heard about Free Britney, the Britney Spears case. And then I had interviewed Mary Bush, and she was going through and is still going through a guardianship issue. So how does this all evolve?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Mary Bush, because all of us that are involved in this guardian racket, we communicate with each other and we all know who the crime victims are. And we call ourselves crime victims because that gives us more rights under federal and state and international laws. So I will get the recording of Mary, but I'm sure that some of the things that she talked about were not only the crimes that were committed against her mother and herself during the guardianship itself, but also the rackets that she was involved with that are derived and originate in the guardianship, because then you get involved in the probate after they finished murdering the victim by abuse and by drugging, and then you go on to the next phase of the criminal operation, which they call probate, where they're busy stealing whatever assets are left. And so I want to read to you, before we get started, the definition of human trafficking, because that's what this is, and people still are not able to connect the dots. And I think by reading this definition of human trafficking, it'll help people understand, because it's so simple and it's so obvious. Mm-hmm. So there's a definition of human trafficking under the U.N.Office of Drugs and Crime. And I'm going to read directly what it says in that definition. It says, human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception, with the aim of exploiting them for profit. So that pretty much sums it up very simply, so that people can understand when family members are taken from their family and from society under the auspices of government through this fraud, force, or deception that falls within the clear definition of human trafficking under the U.N.Office of Drugs and Crime. And I just want to repeat the definition one more time so that people can follow the definition and understand it.
Definitely.
So under the definition of human trafficking under the U.N.Office on Drugs and Crime, it says, human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through fraud, force, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. So the government knows exactly what they're doing. And people, when they first get started or they first get embroiled in this crime, they don't quite understand that it's an enterprise carried throughout the entire government. They think that they did something wrong, or their crime is an isolated instance, and they don't quite get it. And so it takes them sometimes many years while they crawl from one court to the other court that are all part of the protection racket. They go to the committees, the oversight committees, which are judicial oversight committees. They're not independent investigative agencies. And so it's all, they're put in a spin cycle, and they keep going through the spin cycle over and over and over. And what happens during that process is that while they're attempting remedy themselves individually, they're just subjected to more crimes of retaliation, because there's no way an individual can get remedy, because this is a government-enforced human trafficking genocide racket. It is absolutely frightening. And one of the things that I want to get into in this podcast is that these crimes are becoming so infested in our government that people must unite, because until everybody gets together and starts letting the government know that we know. My hashtag is #we know. We know that we know what you're up to. You can't hide these anymore. We know what you're doing. And so I just got back from Tallahassee, as you mentioned, and it was terrifying, because I seldom go to Tallahassee because I'm so busy dealing with, handling remedy on behalf of our group. And we now have victims in 17 states, and we're coming over 100 victims right now, so now we have a very loud, clear voice. But in Tallahassee, what happened is that there was a session in the morning by the Senate, and then there was a session in the afternoon by the House of Representatives. And all of it was with the objective to pass illegal void laws that strip us of our inalienable rights. And so it was absolutely horrifying, because that was the whole purpose of each session. And so I've kind of gone through quite a bit of background, and I guess I'll stop and ask if you have any questions, or if there's anything specific that you want to hear about before I continue.
Definitely. So, okay, so then in the morning the Senate went over this, and then in the afternoon it was who followed after the Senate? Was it the
So in the afternoon, it was the House of Representatives.
Okay.
And so I guess.
So they really didn't accomplish much, just to strip us of our inalienable rights.
Well, what happens when you go to these sessions, it's so very obvious. It's the same thing that happens in court when you're a victim and you're going to court, and a lot of this is done ex parte. And even if you do have the opportunity to speak, everything that you say is completely ignored. And so it's blind, obstruction of justice. And so it's exactly the same playbook in the Senate, because by the time you get to a public so-called hearing at either the House or the Senate, they've already gone through the whole process of enacting these illegal void laws, and they've gotten all their constituents to agree, and it's going to get passed, and you could jump up and down and stand naked in the room, and nobody's going to pay a bit of attention. So they give you, the appearance of, making statements or making objectives, but as you go further, they go, oh, your 2 minutes are up. So by doing that, they're basically tampering with your testimony as a witness, which is a federal felony crime. So in the morning when we appeared, there were a group of us from all over the state. So when we got to the Senate session in the morning, we had brought banners and we had brought flyers that we were going to read and give out. And the first thing that they said was that, oh, you can't bring any evidence. I mean, they must think that people are fools because, they're, again, tampering with our testimony and tampering with evidence, but they'll do anything to conceal these crimes. So not only is it the crime of tampering, but it's obstruction, it's concealing, it's a host of other, federal felony crimes. And this was at an official government hearing. And so they brazenly violated the laws relating to official sessions. And so once we went to bring out our flyers, or once we went to show the gruesome photos of people being physically abused, it was all shut down. And I'll just get into like a little precursor of the hearing, because one of the senators, Lauren Book, had been present at a hearing a week or so before, where a crime victim testified at that hearing that her sons were being abused by a parent, the ex-husband, and she went to 3 judges seeking to get an injunction. She went to law enforcement. She went to the usual places everybody goes, and nobody pays a bit of attention because they're all part of the protection racket. Mm-hmm. So she testified, and that's also on video, about her concerns and that she was desperate to get an injunction. And so Lauren Book, who was, I believe, the presiding color of law government employee at that Senate hearing, is required under 18 U.S.C. 4 to report these crimes. There's a federal law called misprision of felony. So instead of reporting the crimes, she says, oh, well, we'll pass another law. So now she's an accomplice after the fact, 18 U.S.C. 3. So when I mentioned to her before the session, Lauren, I'm surprised that this is the way you handle this. Aren't you aware? Because no doubt you're an attorney, and I believe she is an attorney. I did look it up at the time, I don't recall. But you know that you're required to report these crimes, and if you fail to do so, then you're an accomplice. And so when it came time for me to speak, she conveniently ran out of the room because, she might have been questioned by me in terms of her acts with regard to that prior testimony. But there was so much to say, and that you're going to get cut off. So what I was concerned with at the time was simply making the point that these laws are illegal because they strip our inalienable rights. And so again, I'm going to stop, Maryann, and if there's anything that you want to, ask questions about, feel free. Because there's so much to cover, but the point is that I just want to make clear, and over and over and over, the theme is that our rights, our human rights, are our birthrights, and they're inalienable. And I'm going to read from the Declaration of Independence that says that. And so no government official can strip these rights. Did you want me to just go ahead and read that section from the Declaration?
Sure.
Or did you want to jump in?
Well,
okay.
No, yeah, go ahead and read it. That'd be good.
Okay. So, so one of the things that we're doing right now is preparing filings, to go over the sequence of crimes that were committed, in Tallahassee. But so the Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. That's the exact word used in the Declaration. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So these rights are unalienable, meaning they can't be stripped.
And this seems like this is such a corrupt racket. It's getting worse. I don't know how you stop something like this.
You know, as I said in the beginning, individuals can't do anything because they're deprived of their rights under color of law. And so people have to be educated and they have to understand exactly what's happening. Inalienable rights can't be stripped. And then they have to unite as a group and take action and on as many fronts as possible, including with the perpetrators of these crimes, and seek, you know, that these crimes be investigated by an independent, impartial, third-party, I don't know whether the term is agency or the people, we the people, and attack it on a federal level because these laws are all illegal and they have to be removed from the books, and attack it internationally, both with the International Criminal Court and with the United Nations, who are the international agencies established to be the world police to protect our inalienable rights. And so it's so depraved on so many levels that the crime victims are fighting the crimes by government employees.
You know, I wonder why they are. I know there's a lot of money involved, so they're playing along with this and they are accomplices to all of this because there's so much money involved and everyone's making money out of this. So they are just going along with it.
Well, you see, one of the things that people don't understand, because they're so busy fighting these crimes in the courts, they don't realize that these illegal activities originate with the legislators, because the legislators are the ones that are so-called enacting these illegal void laws. I call them human trafficking laws because that's exactly what they are. These laws can't strip us of our inalienable rights, and these laws are enacted by state governments in violation of sovereign law. And so they're violating the federal constitution, but they're also violating international law, because now we have an international Bill of Rights that was enacted by the United Nations in the 1940s. So I find it so archaic that, you know, we're dealing with these three rights under the Declaration of Independence prepared in 1776 by white men slave owners, and now all of this has been superseded by an international Bill of Rights, which for the most part the United States hasn't recognized, and by their failure to recognize these international Bill of Rights, they're further obstructing our justice. And so people have to become educated and demand the recognition of their rights, and demand basically the indictment and impeachment of the government officials that are depriving them of their rights. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And again, the only way to be doing this is with a loud, unified voice. Mm-hmm. And so I know you're probably going to make an announcement, you know, as we move a little further, but I just want to remind whoever's listening and the public that we do have a group that is, we're comprised of representatives in 17 states right now, and we will be moving forward with international filings, and would like to get as many crime victims as possible to unite in our group, because that's going to give us more power and a louder voice when we file internationally with the United Nations and with the International Criminal Court.
So you obviously talk to people that have been suffering through this, and they are submitting probably all their cases and transcripts to you, and you're helping them get on board with all of this.
Yes. And the other thing that I should also say is that the group is not limited to just the victims of the guardian or the conservator right stripping laws, but also family courts are doing the same thing on guise of child protection. So a lot of that problem in the family courts originates through what's called Title IV, a federal government law, which pays third-party service providers like CPS to kidnap the children of parents in our country. And so those laws originate with the federal government. So we've united family court victims, guardian court victims, who where the government is operating using deceptive laws that are protection sounding names like guardianship or child protection, to make it even further deceptive by using the name, because they believe that these laws are really there for protecting nothing from the truth. Law is a strip the people of their inalienable rights.
You know, in this form of human trafficking, like you said, it is very depraved. And, you know, like, you know, the Mary Bush case, what they did to her mother in the nursing home, you know, people don't understand that, you know, the first thing they do is incapacitate the victim and take away all ways of communication.
You know, before we started, you had me on the show, and again, we all like to each other. I'm really familiar with Mary's case. Mary, you will kind of tell the listeners a little bit more in detail about what it's all about and the issues, you know, when she was on the show, because her case is horrific. Just string of international crimes being perpetrated. It's representative of what happens to all the guards. And before you do, I just want to mention that crimes are being perpetrated. Crimes that are called crimes to the these are crimes that committed under the office of so people still use law mass crime. So they're someone becomes legal, unlawful to be with, but then they're used to mask the crimes that are being perpetrated. So I'm gonna jump in and out of the times and you know.
Yeah, I noticed that we're having a poor connection now. You were asking about Mary Bush. She received no due process in a fraudulent guardianship case that lasted well over 12 years, involving her beloved mother, Genevieve. And Mary had gone in depth with me about the guardianship that destroyed her mother's well-being and inalienable rights, as you have said. It's as if advance directives or wills do not matter, even if they are notarized. Guardianships are unconstitutional acts upon vulnerable persons where inalienable rights are not transferable. And, you know, we even brought up you talking about this, and Dr. Sheila Owens Collins, who was season 2, episode 51. And what they did with Mary Bush is they put her own mother into a nursing home, and they freely called her mother a cash cow. And it was just very, you know, it just was again, you said depraved.
Maryann, I love your visual. I don't you hear me? I lost the visual. I'm not sure we got disconnected.
Yeah, we got disconnected. I don't have your visual, but I can hear you. It's kind of broken
Okay,
up.
good. I don't know why there's interference, but I caught the end of when you were describing, the Mary Bush case, and I just think it's so important for people to understand, the litany of the string of countless crimes that are being perpetrated, and so everything that's done, is a crime, and people have to understand and recognize that, because until they do, then you're also you're colluding with the crimes of the government.
And the thing is, when colluding with the crimes, it's these people have no problem doing it.
Again, a lot of it is because of the rating of Americans citizens cash. It's basically the sale and transfer of American mothers or profit by government, and part of it is just the power, because they're selling and we do, and that the election here, it's so prayed when that's committee that
Hey,
every 4 years.
Hey, Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's like the past 10 minutes, the connection has slowly broken down. Can we leave this meeting and I'll send you a new link, and hopefully we'll have a better connection and we can pick up?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to leave the meeting and end it. I can hear you, but there's like a lot of interference.
Is this better now? Because now I see you visually. Is this better?
Keep talking.
Okay, I see you visually, so you did pop back up on the screen. So I'm hoping maybe the audio got a little bit better. So any luck on your end, or would you like to try to send a new link?
It just sounds like you're grainy. Like I lost you when you were talking about what you were talking about like 10 minutes ago, after I described what happened to Mary Bush. And then you started talking, it was like all chopped up, and it's like, what is going on? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Here,
okay.
I'm going to end this. I'm going to download it real quick, and I'm going to send you a new link. Is that okay?
That's fine.
That way people can hear you and understand. Okay, I'll send you a new link.
So should I disconnect now and just look for the new link?
Yes. Oh yeah, well, I'm going to end it, and it will just shut you off, and then I'll email you a new link.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry.
No, I apologize. I don't know whether that's from my end either.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Here we go, okay?